everyone, and welcome back to another episode of True Crime Finding Closure. To those who are watching for the first time, welcome, welcome, welcome. And for those of you who are coming back, welcome back. My name is Juliana.
Barbara.
And we want to again thank everyone for all your support and love and all that good stuff. You guys have been awesome. Please continue. Please keep it up. Please don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment. This will help us continue to grow and be able to bring you more true crime stories, that we've been bringing you, and we've got a whole bunch more lined up for you. So let's get started on this week's episode. It is as we delve into the mysterious disappearance of Morgan Nick, a 6-year-old little girl who disappeared out of Alma, Arkansas in 1995. Now her case is one that has affected me. It was probably the first one that I ever really got interested in way back in the day. I remember seeing it on Unsolved Mysteries and, was intrigued by it, and it was the first one I really followed. It was really probably the main one that got me into wanting to do the job I do, which is helping try to find lost people and bring them home to their families. So this one has a very big, profound effect in my life and is one that's very close to my heart. So, but for more than 27 years, next year actually will be the 30th anniversary of her disappearance. But Colleen Nick, that is Morgan Nick's mama, has been living with a void in her heart that she said will never be filled. And that is because her daughter has disappeared and has never been found. On June 9th, 1995, her 6-year-old daughter Morgan was watching a Little League baseball game at a ball field near Alma, Arkansas, and went missing. Nick recalled the last time she saw her daughter when she was just running near the field with some friends during the baseball game. I looked up as they were running across. She had a little green Girl Scout t-shirt on, Colleen said. But I looked at her running across with them, and I turned back to the game. And to this day, neither Morgan or her remains have ever been found. For years, investigators have pursued every clue, every avenue, and for answers in Morgan's disappearance. It's an incredible story. It's one that could happen to anybody. Alma is a very tiny town in Arkansas. It's an eastern part of Arkansas, northeastern. I've actually been through there, going to my in-laws' home, who also live in Arkansas. And it's a very tight-knit community. Everybody knows everybody. Everybody's related to everybody. And it's kind of one of those little towns where if you get in a car accident outside of town, the word gets back before you do. I mean, it's that kind of town, little town, everybody. And so for something like this to happen in such a small community, rocked that community. And it's one that even to this day, here it is almost 30 years later, and you go up there and you still see the huge billboards and signs all over, just to get information about this case. And in recent years, more information has come forward, which we'll go into here in a little bit, which presented a different avenue for them to look at. But Morgan Chauntel Nick was born on September 12th, 1988, and disappeared on June 9th, 1995. She was an American girl who, she was again abducted at a Little League baseball game. Her mother is known for creating the Morgan Nick Foundation, which we'll go into here in a little while, which helps people find missing people and kind of gives the parents a guideline of what to do if they're ever in a situation like this. She, at 10:45 p.m. on June 9th, 1995 in Alma, Arkansas, 6-year-old Morgan Nick was abducted by an unidentified man. She was attending the game with her mama, and around 10:30 p.m. she had asked her mom if she could go catch fireflies with her friends, Ty, who was age 10 at the time, and Jessica, who was age 8. At first, her mom was uncertain, well, it's late, it's dark, the normal stuff that you do when you're a parent. But then again, this is a Little League baseball game. I don't know if any of you... So for those of you who've never been to a Little League baseball game in a small community, everybody's there. I mean, kids are running all over the place. Yeah. I mean, it's a community event. It really, truly is. And, she was wanting to be part of the action, so to speak. So it was a normal thing for her to want to go play. And it was a very normal thing to see kids playing. There's a big, huge sand pile up on the top of the hill. It overlooked the ball field where a lot of the kids were playing and building sand castles or doing whatever in the sand and catching fireflies. And she could be seen. She was 50 yards from where her mom was sitting. And what we found later out is the vehicle in which the suspect took her was parked right next to her mom's car. I mean, and to this day, her mom was like, I wish I would have remembered that. There's something about it. But the local police were like, I mean, to use an example, if we got into a grocery store or in somewhere or a restaurant, would we remember the two cars parked on either side of our car? Probably not. The chances are you're not going to. It's not something that, you register. It is what it is. But at first her mother was uncertain again, but eventually let Morgan, go, and it's like, okay, have fun. Morgan was last seen standing near her mother's car where she had stopped to empty out the sand out of her shoes on the way back when the kids were running back to where their parents were because the games were getting ready to end and everybody, of course, then was going to get ready to go home. Again, she was last seen at 5:45, and when Morgan's friends did report seeing a creepy kind of looking guy talking to Morgan as she was putting her shoes back on. Witnesses observed the man, and of course, this was where this park was. Not only was there the ball field, but there was an apartment complex right there. It was like a triangle. There was like a utility office for the state and city right there. Then there was the apartment complex, and there was a couple moms who had kids out front playing and would periodically. I'll get the words out. I really will. But periodically come out and check on their kids, and there were parents, of course, all at the ball field. Everybody knows everybody, so. It's one of the things that kind of baffled me about this case mostly is how can somebody come into a small town like this? Nobody know him. Nobody's seen him since or before. And this little girl goes away. I mean, it's just, for me, growing up in a small town, people know there's a strange car in town. Everybody knows about it. And everybody's, who is that? Who's that person in the town? So for this situation, which you'll find out later, this car had been seen periodically that same day throughout town, and it wasn't until much later when they connected the dots, sadly enough. But, witnesses observed a man that were in there, the moms from the apartment complex, people at the ball game, had witnessed this, watching the youngster as she was playing with the other children in the park. The witness also saw a red Ford pickup truck with a white camper parked nearby that disappeared about the same time as Morgan. The camper could possibly be damaged at the right rear and was described as 4 or 5 inches too short for the truck, which has a short wheelbase and the paint had been dulled by age. This was an older pickup truck. It wasn't a brand new one, which is very typical in that area of our country. A lot of people have older model cars. It's a older community. The truck is believed to have Arkansas license plates. Law enforcement searched the area but found no sign of the girl. When the game ended shortly thereafter, Morgan's friends returned without her, and they told Colleen that Morgan was at her car. When Colleen returned to the car, Morgan was not there, and she has not been seen or heard from since. Investigators said that one of the most important clues in the case from the very get-go, and still to this day, has been that red pickup truck with the white camper. That was parked in the ball field at the time of the disappearance. And we have multiple people who saw this pickup truck at the ballpark. And then also saw the fact that it had disappeared shortly after Morgan had. Local police said that they have received reports of the man in the vehicle approaching children at the time. And for years, detectives and FBI agents didn't have any suspects despite getting tips and information from thousands and thousands of people. But nobody knew who he was, which again to me is kind of a shocker because this is a small town and everybody knows everybody. And so there's there's the military base that was about 15 miles down the road, Fort Smith. And there was Ozark, which was close by. There were towns that were within 15, 20 minutes away where people could have come in that you may not have known. And that's what they kind of speculated, that he may have not been from Alma General, but had been maybe from one of the surrounding places, or maybe been a military officer from Fort Smith. There was some question as to whether or not he was. But yeah, it's
officer or enlisted.
Officer or enlisted.
Yeah.
Sorry. But it for somebody to come into town, everybody, and that was something that I've noticed about this particular case in general, is that everybody perfectly identified the vehicle, but there was always some discrepancy as who was driving the vehicle. They all knew it was a male and was kind of scruffy looking and kind of creepy looking, but that was pretty much as far as it went. There was never really enough detail as to who was driving it, but everybody identified that red pickup truck. And that's one of the first things knowing in a small town, that when you do have somebody new in town, that's the first thing everybody knows, obviously, is, I don't recognize that car, or that truck. Who is that person? And then usually you find out, but in this particular case, because of the accession of events, it wasn't found out. So, in this case, like so many others, police focused on the parents first and ruled them out in the beginning. However, because of John Nick not appearing anywhere, speculation against him began. He had a very interesting history, which we'll go on. Barb will go into more here in just a second. And unfortunately, what happened with Morgan's dad caused a big stir in this case over the years because of his absenteeism. But Barb will explain more.
Okay. The public had gripes about John Nick not being on camera like Colleen. Early on, he would be there, until one day a reporter and her cameraman shoved by him, and he said something to them, and she said, "Sorry, no one wants to hear from the dad. Everybody wants to hear from the mother. They want to see the mother." So he replied, "Oh, well, I don't like talking to you a-holes either." And that was it. Because you never saw John Nick anywhere on the news or crime show, people began to think that maybe he had something to do with her disappearance, or his shady history may have contributed. But both have been found that he or his history had nothing to do with Morgan's disappearance. They looked into that. He continued to be available for the police and investigators, but never spoke to the media again for 24 years until the Hulu documentary, Still Missing. This attitude is found in many child abduction case news clips. Dad is in some stuff, but mostly mom, because they show more emotion to please the media. As a result, John was unfairly treated, slandered in the court of public opinion, even accused of being the one who took Morgan, and just because he wasn't seen in interviews or any media whatsoever. This attitude stinks. Really, people?
I mean, that's... Even myself, I didn't know. I was always... Me as an investigator and as a psychologist, both forensic and behavioral, it bothered me. Because I was like, where's Dad? You would do searches. I would do searches, not only on the internet, but through databases and stuff, and could never find anything on her dad. And I was like, I wonder if her dad has something to do with this, or what's going on, because I couldn't find anything. And it does kind of paint a really bad picture on him, because he wasn't media present. He was present in the case, just not in the media. And when the show came around, the documentary...
Her reaction!
We were watching it in my home, and I was like, oh my God! I was floored when I found out what the media had done to the dad. And I'm like, that's so wrong. And then, and they were like, he did have a shady history. He was a drug dealer, and he did do some not good things. And his home was open to some not good people. So I could see why there was a potential that somebody in his shady history, maybe someone who didn't get the drugs they wanted or something like that, could have used Morgan as leverage to kidnap her and say, hey, you give us our money and we'll give you your daughter back. But there was never a ransom. There was never anything of that sort. to signify that that might be the thing. So eventually they did rule his history out. He did have a lengthy criminal record for various things, the majority of it being in possession of drugs and being a drug dealer. Not much of it was anything else other than that.
Yeah.
So, but for that media person just to come by him and just go, hey, we don't want to talk to you. We want to talk to the mom. You know, shame on you.
Yeah.
Because it's not only the mom that's grieving, it's the dad. And men have a tendency to grieve very differently than women. And to disregard him like that is just wrong. And,
Yeah.
I mean, he's grieving too. He's concerned. He's worried about his child that's not around. So in the future media, don't do that.
Yeah.
Include the dad or have a little bit of more consideration, because this is a family that is grieving. And, you know, him, like so many others, have that issue too.
Mm-hmm.
So, but, you know, early on in the investigation, everybody was looking for the red pickup truck. And it was, you know, they had the police had put out to everybody, hey, anyone that was at that ball game that has any pictures or video or whatnot, please, you know, bring it in, send it to us. We can take a look at it. So maybe we can get a license number or some kind of image of this truck. And they did get an image of a pickup truck with a white camper. But because of the news media's faux pas, stating that they had that image that had been posted, that the police had posted, saying, if anybody knows anything about this pickup truck, let us know. And then the news media said, oh, well, it's already been identified. It was a parent at the game, you know, and it never had been. And so years later, when they're reviewing everything and relooking at everything, they realized, whoa, this was never identified. We have the pickup truck here. We have the evidence on this video. And because of the media saying false information, it never was looked at. You know, so, and in this particular case, if in fact it is whose truck it is, and because of that faux pas, we may never be able to find Morgan, because the individual who is a prime suspect or a prime person of interest is passed away. And because of that, when a person of interest, especially any missing person case, passes away, it becomes almost impossible to be able to find any of the remains without that individual, unless the family themselves know directly where he or she would have put the remains.
Yeah.
So in this particular case, you know, the news media doing such a big faux pas could have been basically the last nail in the coffin for looking for Morgan because of that. We hope not, but it looks like that's what it is. Law enforcement has periodically since then released and re-released the photo of the red pickup truck with the white camper. That was parked near the Alma ballfield about the same time Morgan disappeared. Alma Police Chief Jeff Pointer told the news that after Nick went missing, officers received reports of a suspicious activity involving the driver of that pickup truck and children in the Alma neighborhood. There was actually 7 sites within like just a few hours, like 4 hours, I think it was like 4 or 5 hours, that this was going on. And it was all involving the red pickup truck and this driver. And you know, it was and basically in this neighborhood and the surrounding neighborhood. And children, when I say children, it could be teenagers, it could be younger children, because we had a mixture of ages that this truck and the individual talked to or communicated with or yelled at. Were approached by a man in a red truck with a white camper. We believe someone knows who was at the ballpark that night and who was driving that red truck with the white camper, Pointer said. Police have also circulated a description of the person of interest in the case. He is described as a man between the ages of 23 and 38, possibly older. There has been some discrepancies, but, you know, nowadays it's age, you know, you could, like Raquel Welch, you look at her, or even better yet, Paul Rudd, who looks like he still did look back in the 90s. Yeah. I mean, he hasn't aged today. So it can be speculative. But at the time Morgan's disappearance, he was 6 feet tall with a medium and solid build. He may have had a mustache or beard. So there has been, you know, that's basically the description, and it matches the description of the individual that's a person of interest, except age. And when you look at him in the later pictures, yeah, he seems older than he really is, but that was ones that were taken right before he died. We don't know. It could have been his son as well. So we don't, the jury, as we say, is still out. On June 9th, 1995, the red truck was seen at 7 different sites, and law enforcement says they believe that all sightings are related to the Morgan Nick disappearance. Site 1, a teenage female was walking down the road when she was approached by a red pickup truck. The driver had asked if she needed a ride to downtown Alma, and the teenager, he was really pushing at it, and it was kind of skeezy and creepy, and so it scared the teenager. And this was about, 3 o'clock in the afternoon, a couple hours before the ball game. Or so, maybe an hour and a half before the ball game. The teenage girl was afraid and said no, and proceeded to walk at a very quick pace away from the truck and its driver. The truck kind of sat there watching her and then proceeded to drive away. Site number 2 was 2 girls, ages 5 and 6 years old, and it was at the north end of town, north of where the ball field is. These 2 little girls came running into the house screaming and saying about a scary man that had come up and tried to talk to them and was trying to grab the older one. Mom ran outside and saw a red pickup truck and with a white camper fleeing the scene. So site 3 was 3 teenage boys in downtown Alma were walking in the street, and when they were approached by a red pickup with a white camper, and a male driver yelled at them about being in the street and basically told them, get out, get out of the street, you need to be out, this is for cars and not kids, and, really rough. And they said that he was kind of creepy looking, but, and he ended up flying by them, and they watched the truck proceed down the road in front of them and then make a turn on to Walnut Avenue, which is right down the way from the upper parking lot where Morgan was last seen. So it was literally right there. Site 4, 2 10-year-old boys near the ball field were yelled at again by a male driver driving a red pickup truck with a white camper to get out of the street. They watched as the truck proceeded down the road and turned into the upper parking lot of the ball field where Morgan was last seen. So we have one turning onto the street, and the next one a few minutes later turning actually into the parking lot. And then site 5, which is literally right across from that upper parking lot, a mom who was checking her kiddos playing in the front yard at the apartment complex across from the ball field saw the red pickup truck in the parking lot and saw the man leaning on the hood of the truck with no shirt on. He had no shirt on, no shoes on, appeared, and maybe a pair of cut off blue jeans or something. He was just kind of leaning over his truck, leering at the kids that were playing in the nearby sand pile, which happened to be one of them to be Morgan. And of course, site 6, right there where Morgan was kidnapped. That upper parking lot where she was playing in the sand pile, catching fireflies. Everybody saw that. And then about an hour, within 10 minutes later, site 7, which is an unknown location. And because this might be possibly the last known location of Morgan, the local authorities and FBI do not want to disclose the exact site to keep it safe, they don't want interference. They don't want, it's kind of contamination. But they also, if this is in fact the last place and they do find a suspect, they can, a lot of times they will hold back information about certain things to use in confirming whether or not the individual they may have is the one that did it. But this within 10 minutes of the abduction of Morgan on a road that was parallel to the river. It ran parallel to the nearby river. Several teenagers were doing an activity for school down there. There was about 6 teenagers in a SUV type vehicle. Were driving down that parallel road and passed they drove by a parked red pickup truck with a white camper. They observed what looked like an adult male holding down a small child in the front seat of this truck. But didn't think, they were kind of suspicious about it, okay, that's really odd. And then they proceeded to get back into town. When they heard about Morgan's kidnapping, they immediately told the police and what they had seen earlier, and they showed him where it was. They took him back there, but by the time they got back there, the whole area had flooded because of the rains in that area at that time. But yeah, these are the 7 places. I mean, it was amazing to me. This is what shocked me when I first learned about the case. None of this was known when the case was first told back in 95 and in the years prior. It wasn't until the last 4 years when the new police sheriff, Jeff Pointer, and the FBI and stuff like that took a relook at it and looked at other cases and other things that happened in the area within the same time frame, and saw, well, there's a red truck here and a red truck there, here a truck, there a truck, everywhere a red truck. Making light of it a little bit, but yeah, there was a red truck everywhere, and they were like, oh. And when they really looked at it and how it was connected to children, the teenage girl trying to be taken, the 6-year-old being taken, trying to be taken, and it matched, and so they're like, huh. And then they found, got more information, and they re-looked at it, and they were able to kind of narrow it down a little bit, and ended up finding potentially maybe the man or the people who did it.
Yeah, and to be fair, when it first happened, all those little individual reports came in, there wasn't an actual event. It was just an attempt or talking to him and stuff. So it didn't raise any flags. Yeah. So until they went back and started when the new chief came in and they started rereading everything. And that's when they started seeing them. Because as those things come in, they wouldn't come in right away.
Yeah. Well, in the area, for those of you who don't know, when you live in a small area like that, in the small towns and stuff, when you have a lot of little ones, usually there is one emergency hotline number, like 911, and it's all for the county. So you might be calling in, you might be living, like here in Texas, we're in Hutto, you could be living in Hutto, but that you call in there and it goes into Austin. So Austin has to route it, and so there's all that kind of stuff. That's similar. When these calls were brought in, they were all in and around Alma, and it was routed to the police, but, by the time, nobody was really connecting them.
Yeah.
It was like, just another, and because it is being routed to a singular place in the county, and a lot of times when they go there, you may get someone, who knows how many people. One might get one call, and then another person might get another call, and they don't connect them. And but now Barb does bring a good point. Since this happened, and they saw, whoa, this is a situation. There's actually some laws that have been passed now, where when certain things like this happen, where it's a singular vehicle or it's happening within a certain, like a 5-mile radius and stuff, there are a lot of things with a certain vehicle, it is immediately reported to the police.
And now computers will scrape up, the red truck, and then, they got it.
There's actually an alert.
They couldn't do it in 95.
Yeah, there's an alert that pops up now on there if too many people put in the type of vehicle, it's a red truck or a blue truck, or it's a male driving a red truck, it will pop up and it will alert the 911 operator that there have been multiple calls with a red truck in this area. It can't not also just be the red truck. It has to be the same zip code.
Right.
And when that happens, it pops up, and the 911 operator is like, oh, we got a problem here, maybe. We're going to call the local authorities, say, hey, we have a red truck, pickup truck in your area that has been multiple reports of doing unscrupulous things in this neighborhood or in this area. You might want to go check it out. So they have installed these now to do that, but they couldn't do that back then because they didn't have the computer technology like we have today. So would that help save Morgan? Quite possibly, but it's in place now for kids in the future. But it's when I found out about the 7 sites, I was like, oh my God, it floored me. And when I watched this, it was all part of the documentary that was actually involved with the police, and Ridley Scott actually produced it. But it goes into these 7 sites, and I'm like, oh my God. And it floored me for a couple of reasons. One, because I am from a small town, and I'm like, why didn't they see this? Why didn't they?
Yeah, it's not like they had one phone number and one operator calling it. Oh, here's another thing on a red truck and making another note of it.
And I had
it came to different people.
And that's like, I was laughing at myself because that's me as a person thinking,
yeah,
what? But then me as a psychologist and a forensic psychologist at that, going, well, no, they couldn't have done that because of the area, because it is such a small area. It is such a small community that there wasn't enough people to have a 911 operator for every town, because it just wouldn't work. So they have one, and they wouldn't have caught that like they can today. So, but yeah, it floored me when I saw this, and I'm like, oh my God, it's got to be connected. It's got to be the same person. And then eventually found out that it probably was a pretty good bet, but 100% chance that it was the same person.
My ex-husband was from a small town when he was when he was a teenager. They didn't call the cop. They called Spradlin. He didn't even have a squad car. He drove his own car. His name was Spradlin. They just called Spradlin.
And that was kind of it was where I grew up.
Prosper, Texas.
In Belleville, Kansas, north central Kansas. Yes, I'm from Belleville, Kansas, or Cuba, Kansas. We called Blad. That was his name. Blad. Hey, Blad, Sheriff Blad. We got so-and-so going on. And, it's also really bad when you're in a small town, because everybody knows you, and if you get a speeding ticket, or the whole world knows you got a speeding ticket, or, got an offender bender iron. I was there, teenager, hello. But, so it surprised me that this was so overlooked. And, I mean, I can understand I would think that the police, I think it was kind of a faux pas on them. Yes, at the time, immediate time, they may have not had it, but they should have, in the mindset of investigating, looked to see if any other activity had happened around that time period. Any other sightings or something. And the fact that they didn't do that, they were looking for this red truck, but nobody bothered to look to see if there was any reports done, kind of was a giant miss on the police department. And again, these sites were connected, it was connected finally like around 2008, between 2008 and 2012 is when they started looking back at it a little bit, and then really put it all together within the last 4 years.
New eyes looking at all the paperwork that they had, so much, and found that. So it was a good special. That still missing.
Still missing Morgan. It's on Hulu.
Yeah. It's still there.
Still there. It's an incredible documentary. It's very, very well done, and it really goes into, unlike a lot of documentaries when it's just like a news person telling the story. This is actually the police telling the story. The police and the FBI. You actually see them do their work, and they actually go on some the dog searches and digs with them in this documentary. It's actually really well done one, and seen from the perspective of the police and the investigators and the lead.
Very informative.
Brent, the lead investigator on this case right now, he's been really anxious and really, really coming forward to the family, getting the family involved, saying, hey, this is where we're looking at. We've looked at the composite drawings, and if you look at the ones that were initially taken from the two kids that saw the man who abducted her, Ty and Jessica, to the ones that were taken of this person that was driving the red pickup truck within the days coming or afterwards, and then the one, there are some major similarities to all of it. And, it's hard with a composite drawing because in a child's eyes, when you look at an adult, all adults are old. They're all tall. Yeah. So it's kind of skewed a little bit. And
they're either dad's age or grandpa's age. That's the only age reference they have.
But also back in 1995, they didn't have child interview experts. They come in and help interview, do cognitive interviews with children like they have today. They actually didn't talk to the kids on a sit-down, heavy-duty one-on-one interview for a couple of days. And by then, a lot of the information is forgotten or not accessible to the child. And, that's why now it's mandatory to get a report from every individual immediately, because that's when it's at its freshest.
Yeah.
You wait, you're going to miss some vital details. So, that whole situation is it's insane how that truck was everywhere, but yet nowhere. Because it's like just disappeared without, So it's, and in a small town like that, because nobody recognized that truck or the owner, also leads me to believe that it had to be someone who is outside of Alma, who had either Fort Smith or Ozark or any of the surrounding little towns there, because in a small town, what everybody drives. So-and-so's, pickup truck, or, you go, in the town I grew up in, you could go down the main drag and you could point out there's, Miss Novak, there's, Cupsa or Lewandowski's, who was down on that street who had the car, because you know their car. So when a new car was there, either somebody got rich and got a brand new car, because a lot of these small communities are very poor, or, somebody new is in town. And then everybody gets nosy and tries to figure out who that person is. So that's why this one surprised me, is the fact that this is a small town. It's a small baseball game. Everybody's there. The entire town's at these baseball games. And they could, be 100 people at this game. That's how big this town could be. And nobody noticed they saw the red truck, but they didn't really notice him. It was kind of like he was an invisible entity. And I'm like, how is that? To me, I think that's probably the biggest thing that bothered me most about this, is because knowing the dynamics of a small town, this just didn't fit. It's like, how do you not notice? Everybody notices in a small town. Yeah. And for this to be just that quick, and this happened in a matter of minutes. Literally a matter of minutes, the abduction happened. From the time the two kids left Morgan, dumping her sand out of her shoes, to the time they got to her mom's, about a minute and a half. Mom's like, well, where's Morgan? So, well, he's up there, dumping sand out of her shoes. She immediately got up and went back up there. 2 minutes.
Yeah, she was right next to her own car.
Yeah, 2 minutes, and she got up there and was gone. And Colleen said she didn't hear any cars driving away, didn't hear any engines or anything like that, which tells me it was when Brent, the lead investigator, and Chief Pointer also agree that it was a grab and go, where he was heading out of the parking lot, saw her, grabbed her, threw her into the pickup, and took off. And that was the only explanation to how fast she was taken, and how Mom got up there and didn't hear anything. It was the only way it could have happened.
Yeah.
So, who knows? And then, but, next we're going to actually get into who the FBI have publicly named as the potential suspect or person of interest. In November of 2021, FBI agents publicly named a man named Billy Jack Links as a person of interest in this case, and asked the public's help in gathering information about him. Links was convicted of sexual indecency after attempting to abduct a child 2 months after Morgan Nick was disappeared. The FBI had announced they had a break, and the investigators, this is what caused them to officially link Billy Jack to this, was because of his pickup truck. Links was convicted, and the incident of the indecency which was the Sonic. He was convicted of that. During the incident, the victim of the attempted kidnapping told police that Links had pulled up in a red pickup truck that resembled the one linked to Morgan's disappearance. Links had previously been charged with sexual abuse in 1992, according to the police records. He had died in 2000 while serving his prison sentence for the sexual abuse case. The FBI is still seeking information about the connections he had with Morgan's disappearance. So anyone out there who may know who Billy Jack Links is, his history, where he may have went, his places that he liked to go. We all have our hideaways or our hidey holes, whatever we want to call them. Maybe he might have put us in there somewhere. He may have talked to somebody saying, yeah, I'm the one that took that girl and I put her here. If you have any of that information, please contact the authorities. Again, the numbers are down below in the description. But yeah, after the incident with the girl at the Sonic, and then looking at that in his red pickup truck, initially, this was back in 96, they got his pickup truck, and they actually sent it to the State Crime Lab, and they did a whole workup, and it was lost. So they have all that data they got from that pickup truck, and have no idea where it is, which could ultimately have solved Morgan's case. But sadly enough, again. And then they did find it again, as you would see in the documentary. where they did find the truck again, they did reprocess it, and they found some fibers. They found a blonde hair. They found blood underneath the dashboard. When they got the blood and the hair tested, and of course, again, and we talked about this before in previous episodes, there was just a very little bit of blood, and once you use it, it's gone. And they did it, and it was inconclusive. They did say that it was human blood. They did get that far, but as it was it Morgan's? We don't know. It was not enough there because it has deteriorated over the 25 years in which since the case had happened. Same thing with the hair strand. There wasn't DNA cells on it. But the fiber, the blue-green fiber that they found under the floor mat was a big, and I mean big, hit because it matched the blue-green fiber of the T-shirt that Morgan was wearing. The Girl Scout T-shirt, yes, there were a lot of them made with that type of material, but only that type of fiber would come from that type of material. Was it Morgan? It's a big possibility, but they also have to consider, well, somebody else's Girl Scout T-shirt could have been in that car. But, when looking at it, it's highly impossible. It's highly improbable that it was anybody else other than Morgan. But they still have to keep that possibility open for legal reasons until they have enough evidence to prove that that child was actually in that car or that pickup truck. There have been a lot of other, with Jack, other attempts that were possibly done by Lynx and were also related to Morgan's disappearance, as Barb will go into here in just a quick second, that came in within the years following Morgan's disappearance, and a couple that came before Morgan's disappearance that helped the police link him as a possible and a really prime suspect in the Morgan disappearance. Let Barb take it away.
After Morgan's disappearance, multiple reports came in about pickup driver connected to dodgy activity with other children that week. In previous 48 hours, a similar-looking suspect had tried to lure a 9-year-old girl into a red pickup truck. He was foiled when the child screamed and her mom came to her aid. The second one, in Fort Smith, about 15 miles away, a man tried to lead a 9-year-old girl into the men's restroom at a convenience store. She resisted, and he panicked and fled before adults could detain him. The girl said she thought he resembled the person thought to be behind Morgan's abduction. I guess the
composite drawings. Probably looked like
the composite drawings. Yeah. It was years later when another lead was followed, 2021. That's when Billy Jack Lynx was a person of interest. He had been under investigation for about 3 years until he passed away in 2000 while serving time for sexual indecency with a child. That offense was an attempted abduction 2 months after Morgan, near Wolford Field, the baseball field, same field she was. August 29th, 1995, Lynx approached an 11-year-old girl at a Sonic fast food drive-in with her siblings and a friend. The girl said he started a conversation with sexual overtones and then offered her money to go back to his house. He had also offered money to her companions to leave. She ran away from him, telling her companions to call 911. He tried to flee the scene, but sideswiped a pole. Luckily, a witness got his truck tag info. After he was arrested, a neighbor told police that Lynx used to have a camper shell. Van Buren is about 10 minutes down the interstate from Alma, where Morgan Nick was taken. The girl told officers the man offered her money, made sexual comments to her, and offered to pay her to get inside his truck and go with him to his house. The girl ran away and police were notified. A witness reported an Arkansas license tag to police that was traced to Lynx, and an arrest warrant was issued the next day. So at least they got him.
I mean, wouldn't be able to do any more to anybody else.
Yeah.
But, this was in 95, and that's when they took his truck and took it to the crime lab and got all that stuff. And What came of the stuff they got from that lab, we don't know. It disappeared.
Yeah, I think it was sent to the wrong lab or something. Who knows?
So that, like I said, the red pickup truck all along has been the key factor in this case, because it was seen at so many different places. It was involved in, the child abduction you were just talking about, or attempted child abduction.
Right.
And so they looked at it, they gathered evidence, but it disappeared, and it kind of just went away for a while. I mean, it was still there, they were still looking for it, but it wasn't at the forefront of everything anymore. Until about 4 years ago, when they started working on this docuseries, and they got new eyes on it, the new police chief, Jeff Pointer, and Brent, who was the lead investigator, and the FBI started to take a new look at it and saw that, oh wow, we know where this truck is. This truck had been in police compound, or impound for years, and then was sold at auction, and somebody else had it. So they ended up finding the truck again, getting it back, and literally taking apart the whole truck. And that's when they found the hair, the blood, and the fiber from what would appear to be the Girl Scout t-shirt. Mm-hmm. So Link's pickup truck, it became not only the red pickup truck, it now became Link's red pickup truck. Investigators from multiple law enforcement agencies searched for a red 1986 Chevy Scottsdale pickup truck or a 1986 Ford pickup truck, they weren't sure which, to collect evidence from inside of it. According to crime lab reports, blood was identified on part of the seat in the truck. Investigators also recovered hair samples from various items that were found. Lab technicians found the blood and the blonde hair did not have enough DNA information for a conclusive match. A new documentary, what we've been talking about, Still Missing Morgan, revealed that law enforcement also found a blue-green cotton fiber in the mat under the seats and the metal pieces of the truck. FBI technicians were able to match the fiber on a microscopic level to a Girl Scout shirt of the type Morgan wore when she disappeared. Court records from the Van Buren incident reveal that the neighbor who lived next to Link's in 1995 told investigators back then that he thought that there was a shell on Link's truck a few months ago, which is right around the time Morgan disappeared. It would make sense, to get speculation to remove that camper, because that's what everyone was looking for, a red truck with a white camper. So it would make sense he would remove it to not be looked at by authorities. Initial crime lab reports found that the blood was identified on part of the seat inside the truck and that there were hair samples. Our hope is that the information will get back very quickly, Colleen Nick said before she found out the results. An analysis found that the fiber matched the Girl Scout shirt. The lab technician was able to determine that it is highly unlikely that the fibers found within the truck would come from a different material. FBI Special Agent Reuben Gray said, although Links has yet to be formally charged with the abduction, FBI Special Agent Rob Allen said that the new evidence gives the investigators a more explicit link between him and the Morgan's disappearance. Now we can push away effort and resources on other subjects and relocate them to this one, and do a full court press on one subject. Agents are trying to learn as much as they can about the life of Billy Jack Links. And that's where this was for people like you out there become important. Anybody who knew Billy, whether it was from his time in the military to his when he worked at the airlines, wherever. If you know anything about Billy Link, please bring it
or a fellow inmate.
Or a fellow inmate, in prison. If you know anything about Billy, and maybe he said something to you, or something that caught your attention. These are the things that we need in order to be able to bring Morgan home. We know that Links was born and raised in Crawford County, Arkansas. He served in the Army during the Korean War, and he worked at Braniff Airlines in Dallas, Texas from 1962 to 1974. Links returned to Van Buren sometime in the late 70s, and he died in prison in 2000. Whether it was through school or work or church or any social activity or any job, whatever, we need information about Links and details about his entire life. This is something that's coming from not only the local police, Alma Police, Van Buren Police, but also the FBI. They need as much information as they can on this man. And, did he have other properties? where did he go? You know, did he have places that he liked to go hunting or camping or fishing? Because Arkansas in this area is the Ozarks. So there are a lot of trees and a lot of lakes and rivers and a lot of places where people go to be outside and enjoy nature. Like hunting and stuff like that is very popular up there. Fishing is huge in Arkansas. My husband's relatives and family go fishing all the time. So it's big up there. So maybe he might have a fishing hole he might have gone to. So if you know any of these pieces of information about this man, you know, please share it with, you know, the Arkansas authorities, you know, any little bit. You know, remember, every piece of information about Link's life is extremely important. No detail is too small or insignificant. So please, if you know anything, please bring it forward, because you never know. Your little thing could be the answer in finding closure for this family. Like I said, this has been a case that has affected Alma, Arkansas, and the state of Arkansas. You know, you can't go into that state without hearing about Morgan Nick. Mm-hmm. And it has changed the atmosphere. Before the Morgan Nick disappearance, it was these neighborhoods were the kind that left the doors unlocked, and kids were playing in the street and in the yards. It was a feeling of safety, and everybody knew everybody, and, you know, it was, you know, freedom and stuff. And now, since this happened, it's more isolated. There's not as much, there's still, but not as much camaraderie as there was prior to this. I mean, it's affected the whole town. They all, you know, hear about it, know about it, and every year on the anniversary, Colleen and her friends and family and the town of Alma and the police department and FBI release balloons with a card that has an updated picture of Morgan on there, what she may look like. I mean, today, if she was alive, if she is alive, she would be 34 years old. So it's, and they let balloons go, and, you know, hopefully that maybe one may bring an answer. And they let, the number of balloons they let go every year is the number of days that she's been disappeared. So every year, of course, it gets bigger and bigger and more balloons, as you can imagine. But they're doing everything they can to get this information out there and find out who took her. Anything. Even if you know, they're looking at Lynx in his red pickup truck. But if you know something that, well, no, it's not Lynx. We know who it is. You know, maybe it was Lynx's son or a relative that drove Lynx's truck, you know, or whatever. Anything you have, you know, bring it forward, because it's important. And in this time frame, one thing that did, a positive that did come out of this whole tragedy was that Colleen Nick started the Morgan Nick Foundation. The foundation's mission is to educate children and teenagers about personal and online safety and to try and prevent childhood abductions. The foundation also helps provide guidelines and help to families who have missing kids and what to do, help get when to talk to media, when to, you know, get the press involved, and, you know, how to handle certain situations and things when these things transpire. The foundation also assists the Attorney General, local law enforcement agencies, and families of missing person cases involving children and adults. Colleen Nick has said that she is still holding out hope that she will find peace after all these years, because she's been able to bring home over 100 plus kids. Her foundation has, alive and well, and it continues to bring home kids. But the one child who she wants to bring home more than any is her own, Morgan. Nick said again, she's still holding out hope. That's, you know, hope always loves, is her famous saying. You know, Colleen who runs the Morgan Nick Foundation and her organization, hasn't given up hope that Morgan would be found and that her family would get justice eventually someday. We hope. But the foundation's been awesome. It's been institutional, like I said, in solving a lot of missing person cases and bringing a lot of kids home. So, you know, she's helped us. Let's help her. Let's help bring Morgan home. You know, it is it's an incredible foundation, and it has actually helped a lot of families who are dealing with, you know, missing kids. Because, like you see in the Carly case, and you saw in the Brandy case and things like that, there is no guidebook or guidelines on how to deal with something like this. So having a foundation like the Morgan Nick Foundation or the Polyclass Foundation, having these resources for parents who are going through this is an invaluable resource. I mean, it's sad that we have to have something like this in this world, but I think it's incredible that we do have something to help parents who are...
And it gives the parents somebody who understands what they're going through.
Support. Yeah.
The support.
Like a support group. So it's an incredible thing, and I think it's wonderful that this exists. but, and throughout, like, again, when I spoke to a little bit ago, the reaction that people had to this case affected not only Alma, but the whole state of Arkansas. Everyone has been searching or looking or giving tips and things to the police and been supporting the Nick family. But, like with any other case, this is, kind of the run-of-the-mill, I hate to say that, but the typical missing person case, unlike when we saw it with Carly. So here's Barb to give you a little bit more information about, the public view of this case.
Well, after the drama disaster of Carly Gousset's case with the crooked PIs and pitting mom versus mom, etc., this case was straightforward with mostly thoughts and prayers and comparison. For the most part, people were sending encouraging notes to Colleen and family. Few might discuss the latest common theory or some such. There was one poster who had a wild, detailed theory with detailed dialogue as though she had overheard the abductor. Most of the others just disregarded that person. She would try again in another thread, but same response. A few would poke holes in her theory and it would taper off. But most of it was just good wishes to Colleen and them.
Yeah, I actually saw that poster. She actually, Barb sent me a link to it, and I actually looked at it. And I'm like, ooh, okay.
Yeah, it was another one of those insert type.
Yeah.
Wants to be.
And for those out there, it don't do that.
Yeah.
Because what happens is police will start looking at you. It's like, okay, you sound like you've been there. Do you know something that you need to be telling us? So they will come and hunt you down, and I've seen it happen. So if you're
looking for attention, find another way.
if you know something, obviously present it. But if you're just trying to get attention, please don't. Not in these cases. There's enough grief already, and we don't need false hope.
Now, John's treatment by the news media notwithstanding, the authorities usually clear the parents' alibis, etc., first thing. So the so-called web sleuths dragging him because he isn't with Colleen on the news, so he must be evil and did bad to his daughter. Horse hockey. That's just cruel. Stop it. That's just... Some of the stuff I was reading was just... And he sees this.
Yeah, he's aware of what's going on, and it's just like, people are like seeing his history, and I'm like, you know what? Yeah, not all of us have the perfect past. We all make mistakes. It's called being human. And yes, some of his are grander than normal, considering being a drug dealer. But, accusing him of having something to do with his daughter, and I will admit, I was one of those people, and it was only because coming from an investigator's point of view and from a police point of view, when you're not seeing the parent, you're only seeing one parent, where's the other one? Where's dad? Is dad dead? Is he not involved? Is he living in another state? What's the situation? And when you would search for her dad, you couldn't find anything. Nothing.
Yeah.
And I literally did not even know his name until the documentary came out. He was literally that much pulled back. But what it was presented in the documentary and was that he was very much active in finding Morgan with the police. He answered all their questions. He was always available for everything. So he was very much active in it, trying to help with the investigation. So he was always willing. So, and he did do a polygraph and he passed. And, so he did have a scrupulous history, but, we can't always judge a person by their extracurricular activities, which unfortunately a lot of the media and the public were doing. And, when it comes to that,
but they were acting like the people who were doing the investigation hadn't noticed. Did they not know about this? Yes, they did, and they cleared it.
Yeah. And that's what I'm saying. It's so frustrating. That's what people need to know out there. While we do appreciate web sleuths, because they do open our eyes to other paths that we may not be thinking of. We do appreciate it. But we also say, hey, don't always point everything at what you don't know, because we do leave the evidence behind. We don't present forward to the public because we have to use it
to prove that that was the actual
exactly.
thing.
So, when you go on, and I've gone on to Reddit or to the Web Sleuth thing, and a lot of it's speculative or suggestions, and a lot of it's, okay. But then there are some of those people out there who are adamant that it's this, and being really forceful, and, the families look at these things. They do read them. They do look at them.
Yeah.
And so seeing some of these hurtful comments is not good. I mean, I know in the Maura case, finally Maura's sister, Julie, started her own TikTok thing because she was sick and tired of people going on to Reddit and going on to these sites and bashing her family.
Yeah.
Now, granted, Fred Murray kind of put that target on his own back with his bizarre behavior. But if you look at Fred Murray and then you look at John Nick, it was completely opposite.
Yeah.
John Nick was being abused by the media and said, I'm done. I'm walking away. I will still deal with the authorities and the police, the ones who are actually trying to find my kid.
Right.
And the rest of you can go just...
The others just want ratings.
Yeah, can go...
So a crying mom is what they want.
Hang it in their ear, as my dad would say. So I have to give a little bit of, credit. And I was, again, one of the ones prior to watching the documentary and getting information that, maybe John's activities had something to do with it. But since watching the documentary and getting information from the Alma Police Department, I was like, oh, nope. I can safely rule out the 100% without a shadow of a doubt that John Nick had nothing to do with his daughter's disappearance or his history. I mean, it's pretty obvious. In the continued aftermath of the Morgan case, there was always, every year there was always something. There was blips always about it or things that might have been related to it. In August of 2012, Tanya Smith and James Monhart, two previously convicted felons, were arrested for computer fraud after attempting to assume the identity of Morgan Nick. In February of 2023, this is the documentary that both Barbara and I have been talking about, Still Missing Morgan. It's a 4-part ABC News Studio documentary series executively produced by Ridley Scott and was released on Hulu. If you haven't seen it, it's a must-see. It's one of the best documentaries I think I have ever seen, and I've seen a lot. Trust me, I have seen a lot. This is one of the best. Trust me, go for it. On January 15th, 2002, police conducted a dig on a private piece of land in Boonville, Arkansas, after they received a tip that claimed Morgan Nick might have been buried there. The tip was so specific that the police decided to dig. A police dog was also used in that particular search, and the police ended the investigation at 9:30 p.m. and said they did not intend to return to the property. On November 15th, 2010, federal investigators searched a vacant house in Spiro, Oklahoma, for DNA evidence that could show Nick had once been in the house. On December 18th, 2017, investigators returned to the house to conduct another search after they received a tip about the case. Cadaver dogs alerted investigators to a well on the property. Which they said was the center of the investigation. The search was called off on December the 19th after no evidence was found. As of October, and just so you know, Spiro, Oklahoma is literally just on the other side of the Arkansas border from Alma. It's like maybe 20 miles down the road, 20, 30 miles on the other side of the Arkansas border. In case you didn't want to know. It's like right there. But the search was called off on the 19th after no evidence was found. As of 2021, new leads in the Morgan Nick disappearance continue to be received and investigated at the local, state, and federal levels. In November of 2021, police again have named Billy Jack Links as a person of interest in their investigation. Links, again, who died in 2000, drove a red pickup truck that had been a focus of the investigation since the very beginning in 1995. FBI's of the fibers found in the truck were a close match to those from the T-shirt that Morgan had been wearing. In 1996, Colleen Nick, that was Morgan's mama, started the Morgan Nick Foundation, which helps parents cope with the disappearances of children and helps prevent children from going missing to begin with. Her case was featured, Morgan's case was featured on Unsolved Mysteries, which is where I saw it for the first time, and America's Most Wanted, which is where I saw it again. and became fascinated with it. While Morgan's family and the foundation were featured in a 2005 Extreme Makeover Home Edition after the family's house was damaged in a water heater explosion. And what was really cool about that, I actually watched the episode last night just for the heck of it. And I'd forgotten that John Walsh actually made an appearance on the show talking about Morgan's disappearance, and also they did a segment of, each person that was there held up a picture of another kid that was missing and said their name and, information. It's like, hey, maybe we can, bring other kids home. So it was really cool that John had done that alongside of Extreme Makeover, which is really cool. And Tony Hawk, the famous skateboarder, also made an appearance on the show because Morgan's younger brother, Logan, is a huge skateboarding fan. So he helped create a whole outdoor skate park for Logan and signed, skateboards and things for the family and stuff. And the show was actually filmed on the 10th anniversary of Morgan's disappearance. And they actually showed the balloon release, all the pink balloons and stuff. And they showed, which I thought was interesting because that was still back in 2005, was still a time when we did not know much about the dad. Dad did not appear on that show at all. Which I thought was interesting. It was all about family. But you saw Mom and the two kids, Taryn, the baby, and Logan, the middle child, on there. And them creating this thing and talking about Morgan and the missing person case. And Kathy Mattea, world-famous country artist Kathy Mattea, actually wrote a song and performed it on the show in dedication to not only to Morgan, but to all the missing children in this world. And the Missing and Exploited Children Foundation actually used that song as their song. You can hear it in a lot of their videos and stuff playing in the background. So I don't have the name of the song. I should have gotten that. My bad. But you can always look it up. Just look up Kathy Mattea Missing Person song, and it comes right up. I think it's called Home Again. I think is what it's called. Don't quote me on that, but I think that's what it's called. The Amber Alert System service is named the Morgan Nick Amber Alert in the state of Arkansas. So they not only are they dedicating it also to Amber, but also to Morgan. Still Missing Morgan chronicles the investigation into the missing child, and it features exclusive interviews with local detectives, FBI agents, and offers new key evidence that may lead to a suspect in the case. Which actually, and I think it's Brett, the lead investigator, kind of said, he's like, while I'm glad that's leading to Billy Lynx, he's like, I hope to God that he's not him, because like I said earlier, if it is Lynx and the fact that he is dead, the chances of recovering Morgan, dead or alive, go down substantially. Yeah. And it's kind of like, we hope it's not, we're going to keep trying, we're going to keep doing this, maybe it's not, maybe somebody who knew him can give hope that maybe, we never know. But I just thought it was an interesting statement that he made on the documentary. Yeah. But you could tell when watching this documentary how these investigators and people who were investigating this, how much they care about Morgan and her family, and how they came and who knew Colleen.
It humanized the FBI to the public. So
and the police and stuff, and showed the care that they had not only for Morgan but for her family, and the making sure that Mom was okay, and Dad and Grandma and all the family, and it's important that it's known that the police really are trying to help. They really are. At the time of her disappearance, going back, to this, it did offer new information, and because of this documentary, it caused them to really reevaluate everything and look at everything they had, and that's where they found the 7 sites. That's when they really saw, oh my God, we have 7 locations and where this truck was seen. They got pieces of information that they were putting together that had been collected, but it wasn't connected. Now they were connecting all these pieces, and they're like, oh my gosh, this is incredible. So maybe this documentary may help bring her home. We hope. If anything, it got Link's truck, checked out again. We did find, like I said, we found that fiber. And they are actually searching the state of Arkansas, two different places where that evidence should be from the original scoping out of the truck. So hopefully, maybe they can unearth it wherever it went.
Yeah.
We hope. But also, something else that was also stated that, because the evidence is missing, and it looked like it had gone missing fairly early in the investigation, they were wondering if maybe somebody knew something or led to somebody that they knew and were hiding the evidence so that the police couldn't find it. And if that is true and you are the person who did that, please bring that evidence forward, because we need to find closure for Morgan and find justice for her. We really do. At the time of her disappearance, Morgan was approximately 4 feet tall. She was 55 pounds with blonde hair and blue eyes. Morgan had 5 visible silver caps on her molars, and she was last seen wearing a green Girl Scout t-shirt, blue denim shorts, and white tennis shoes. A massive investigation turned up thousands of leads, but still no solid clues to the whereabouts of Morgan Nick or her abductor. Again, it's all leading towards Billy Jack in recent years, but still, we don't, even though all evidence seems to point towards Billy Jack, we don't have concrete evidence that it truly was him until we get more tips or more evidence proving otherwise. The FBI and local communities have offered up to a $60,000 reward for the recovery of Morgan Chauntel Nick and the identification, arrest, and conviction of a subject or subjects responsible for her abduction. We do know that Jack was married at one point and had a kid, at least one kid that we know of. Maybe his wife may know something or had seen something or heard something, or his son, or maybe one of his relatives, maybe a brother or a sister, or somebody may know something or may have overheard him talk about something. Anything, any little bit can help. The search continues to move forward. There have been numerous possible sightings of Morgan across the United States. Morgan's parents believe that Morgan is still alive and hope that with continued media coverage, someone will be able to provide them with the information that could bring their daughter home. And to reiterate, she went missing on June 9th, 1995 from Alma, Arkansas. Age now would be 34 years old. At the age of her disappearance, she was 6 years old, and her date of birth is September 12th, 1988. She's white, weighing 55 pounds, blue eyes, female, height 4 foot tall, and blonde hair. So she disappeared. Of course, she'd be taller now. But you can also, if you look at the thumbprint here, you see the age progressed photo of Morgan. You see what she looked like the day she disappeared and what she possibly would look like now. So if you know somebody that looks like that, please contact the police so they can make sure that that's not her. Something that Colleen has stated, the possibility that 2% of the missing children do survive. That means until someone can prove that Morgan didn't survive, the possibility remains that she did survive until someone can prove it, Colleen said. My fight is for that small percentage in case of Morgan fell into that 2% of that possibility. A teeny little possibility, but as long as that possibility is there, that's my fight to break. We have the J.C. Dungard and the 3 that were from Ohio that returned, and is it Kristen Smart? I think out of Utah.
Yeah,
Elizabeth Smart.
Utah.
All these kids who were taken and have been found, and of course, with the 100 plus kids that her foundation has found, she has hope. Hope always loves. And that's her saying, and we continue to hope for her and pray for her. And we hope, by doing this show that gets that word out there, and maybe somebody knows something and can help bring Morgan home. And she can be a part of that 2%, you know. And that's why we do what we do. Because in that I want to make that 2% 100%. I want to hopefully bring every kid home. And it takes people out there who have seen things, who are willing to open up and say, hey, this doesn't look right, this seems hinky, to call the police saying, hey, I seen this car driving around the neighborhood, really slow and kind of looking like they're casing or looking at these kids. Call it, could you be wrong? Possibly, but it's better to be wrong than not and do something than not be wrong and not do anything at all, and another kid be taken. So it's we as adults, as parents, as grandparents, as people in the community, neighbors, to be vigilant in our neighborhoods, to be vigilant of our kids that are walking and playing and being kids in the neighborhood because they're not paying attention. We as adults need to pay attention for them on their behalf. And if we see something that's out of the ordinary or gives us the hinky vibe, call. You never know. And who knows, maybe that call could save a child from being taken. So it's really up to our public. And it's our time for our public to step up and start taking the responsibility and helping make sure these kids don't get taken. So again, we thank you for listening and taking the journey with us as we delve into the Morgan Nick case. If you have any tips or information about Morgan and what happened to her, please call the numbers we have listed below. There's 3 of them. There's one for the missing and children exploited, FBI, and the Alma Police Department, as well as the Arkansas State Police. So, and you can also, remember you can always call these numbers and you can give information or tips anonymously. Every tip and every bit of information can lead us closer into finding closure for the family, finding Morgan, and bring those guilty of possibly taking Morgan to justice. So if you know of something, anything, any little thing as insignificant as you may think it is, please call. It's never too late, to bring a child home or an adult home. Right. Next time we have another riveting case for you. This is one that's actually close to both where Barbara and I live. It is one that has really affected Austin. You hear about it a lot. And it's one that for a long time people thought was already solved, but it actually isn't solved. And it's one that it has shocked Austin. And it's made Austin proper look at crime a little bit differently and how insecurity, and it also limits the ages of kids being in stores past a certain time. Laws were passed because they were too young to really, they were young teenagers. But it's the Austin yogurt shop murders. This is an unsolved mystery from, like I said, our neck of the country. And we were asked to present it by my niece, Hannah Booner. And Hannah, if I pronounced your last name, your new married last name, congratulations on getting married, wrong. I sincerely apologize. But she's the one that really brought it. I'd heard about it, but had never really looked into it until my niece mentioned it, my niece Hannah. And I was fascinated, like, wow, okay, yeah, this one needs to be said, and maybe somebody may have heard something or saw something. Mm-hmm. And again, this is a case that has affected Austin and Texas, and one that really does need to be solved for closure and justice to the families that are involved, because it took 4 girls from the 16 all the way down to, I think it was 12, was the youngest girl, 11, 12 years old. So, this caused regulations to be changed in Austin, and we'll go into all of that next time and how it still affects Austin today. You see the effects of it today here. But as always, we thank you for your support, so please don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment. If you have any cases you want us to cover from your part of the world or country, please comment below, and please also mention if we are allowed to use your name and handle when or if we choose your case and to present your case or story. And even if you are a part of a missing person case or a homicide or something, we'd be more than happy to present your story as well. Again, just, present this information to us and we'll see what we can do. So that is all we have for you today. Our next episode about the yogurt shop murders here in Austin will drop in about 2 weeks, give or take. Please, everyone, stay safe out there, and remember to be observant of your surroundings and those around you. Because you never know, it's being observant and knowing those around you helps prevent tragedies from transpiring, like the one we discussed today. So take care out there. And until the next time, this is Juliana.
And Barbara.
Signing off. Take care, everybody.